Hey, welcome back, everyone. Today we have Andy Gartz. He's the founder and operator of Slab Pizza, a 4-unit pizzeria that's super famous for its massive slices of pizza and incredible variety of flavors. Andy, you'll probably talk to this, but my last count, I think you had like 30 to 40 different flavors on the menu. And Andy's run several different restaurant concepts through the years, but he's been running Slab for nearly 15 years now. And Andy, we're super excited to have you on today. Thanks for joining us.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, now maybe before we just dive into all the juicy details, can you tell us a little bit more about your background and the origin story of Slab?
Sure. So I studied at BYU and couldn't wait to leave, but I don't know, through a winding path, I ended up back here trying to start my own business. So we lived in Washington and I worked at a semiconductor company for 11 years. And I went to business school at the University of Chicago in the middle of that. And sitting in a cubicle, I finally thought of a business idea that I thought was good enough to quit my job over. And so I did. And I moved to Utah because it was the best and easiest place to start what I was starting. And then 9 months later, I started a restaurant instead because my idea wasn't very good. But that's a whole nother story. But I was looking for jobs and I was just driving around one day and I saw this little place at the bottom of Campus Plaza apartment buildings right off campus at BYU and talked my wife into using the remaining money that we had left to start a little cafe. And so we started a restaurant. We started our first restaurant that was an Asian cafe and it cost $15,000, which, you know, it's already in thinking back to what we did, it's already insane. But we did that. We ran that for 6 or 7 months and opened up a second place. And then Slab, the second place was going fairly well. And I had pretty much murdered my first cafe opening the second place because I was just spread too thin and we didn't know what we were doing. But I was looking to get out of my lease in Campus Plaza and someone came in looking at the space and he said that he was planning on opening up a pizza place. And I just thought quietly to myself that sounded like a really good idea. And I waited for him to say no and that he wasn't interested in my space. And then there was a guy, Eric Bueller, who had moved in across the street from me in Provo, and he had a pizza oven, and he was waiting to go to BYU business school the next fall. And so I just asked him if he wanted to open up a pizza place together in the meantime before he started school. And so we did. And we started with his pizza oven that he bought for $2 at an auction in Ohio. And he would unplug his dryer and plug in his pizza oven at his home in West Virginia before they moved to Utah, and he would make these 20-inch pizzas. And that's how we started. Everything was used, everything was super cheap. We had a really small space. We had 4 tables, and but we and at the time we had a small menu. We only had, I think our original menu was 8 or 9 flavors, but we started, and it was a really slow build for about 5 years. There was just the slope of our growth was really slow and steady for like 5 years. And And I closed my other restaurant probably a year into, maybe not even, I can't even remember when I closed, but probably a year after Slab opened, because you could you could feel what was going to happen, even though it hadn't happened yet. You could feel what was going to happen. So so we had faith that it was going to, and that's how we started.
And did it start with the slab concept? And it
Yes.
actually might be good to explain for the listeners, like what is a slab, because
So
it's a unique
we
model.
only have we have one size of pizza. It's a 20-inch pizza, and we sell quarters of that pizza. So a quarter of a pizza is a slab. And so Eric had always made pizzas that big because that's how big his oven was, and he was usually feeding a lot of people. So you just maximize your space, right? So
The
he'd
beauty of a
already,
constraint.
yeah. I mean, so the slot in the oven's 22 inches wide, so you make a 20-inch pizza, right?
Yeah.
So I the idea for selling quarters came. When I was in business school, I worked for one of my professors my during my summertime, and he had an office in the Loop in Chicago. And I was a poor college kid, right? So I would there was a pizza place underneath the L tracks right down at the bottom of our building, and they close. I can't remember what time they closed. They probably close at 1:30 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But for the last half an hour, they would just try to get rid of everything that they had made for lunch. And they made big pizzas, and they sold slices. And I remember going down and being able to buy a slice of pizza for a couple dollars. And I just remember being served on a standard paper plate, and all three corners of the triangle of the slice were like hanging off the edges. And I
Yeah.
just remember thinking how cool that was. And so we just, we cut a pizza in fourth and decided we could sell quarters of it, and that we were smart enough to put different sauce on each of the quarters, and we could, and my wife loves packaging, so she had the idea to put it on a piece of paper instead of a paper plate. And so, we've been doing exactly the same thing for 15 years almost.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And so you were at that point where, hey, we were the growth was kind of was happening. You could feel that something great was about to happen. It was kind of slow at first, but you kind of had that feeling that we're on to something. You know, from my perspective, I got introduced to Slab when I moved out to Provo, Utah back in 2011. And I think at the time there was just that one location right off of BYU's campus, and I've been able to watch the brand grow and develop through the years. And something that I noticed right from the start was Slab had somewhat of a cult-like following, where like some people would go there every week, which isn't common for a pizza place, but they're going there every week, sometimes multiple times in a week. And like the number of flavors that you had tried was almost like this badge of honor that people had. Now, I guess, how did you go about like building that audience and going from that beginning where, hey, we're kind of just building this thing, we have the one pizza oven, we're figuring it out, everything's starting super cheap. How'd you go about building that brand and that audience?
So I've been thinking about a lot about this the last couple of days, just preparing for this. And there are things that we did intentionally that worked really well, and there are things that we got lucky on. And it's a combination of both those things. A lot of the things were intentional because, in the previous 12 months, I had already opened 2 other restaurants, right? And
Yeah.
so I paid a lot of tuition doing those, right? And we joke in our family that I didn't see my kids for like 3 years, because we were or my kids would come and do their math homework in the back of the restaurant, right? So,
Yeah.
but we knew we had this belief that a superior product or a high value product, like a high quality product, would sell itself. And so we weren't going to spend money on advertising or coupons or discounts or mailers or whatever, right? We were going to spend money on our ingredients. And so the very first time that we met with Nicholas, our food supplier, and this guy Neil was awesome. He had run pizza places before. He's just wise, and he just brought us samples of all the stuff that he thought we should try, and he didn't say anything. He just said, "Okay, here's 5 different pepperonis," and we try them all, and whatever tasted the best is what we used. We didn't ask what the price was. We just said, "This is the best." And he brought different cheeses, and Neil told me later, he's like, "I was amazed that everything you guys chose was actually the best." And some of it was the most expensive, right? I mean, we've bought the most expensive cheese for a long time,
Yeah.
but we've always said that that's our marketing budget. So we had this belief that and I still have this belief that the highest quality marketing you can do is your customers doing it for you. And so we had a message that was that people could spread easily, right? I had great pizza. It's easy. That sells anyone, right? It should, right? If it doesn't, I don't, then that customer's not for me. But
Yeah.
I had great pizza. You should come and try it is the only marketing that we needed. And so that's what we saw. And from the very beginning, you would see people coming every week, a few times a week. I mean, I have customers that have come at least 3 times a week for 14 years. Right. And it's great. And I know, like, I'm friends with most of them. Right. And I love going to my Provo store because it's like a reunion every time I'm there. Right. And so you could see this happening. And as some of the lucky things were our location was not traditionally a good location. It's actually a really poor location. There's no parking. It's in the basement of a 70-year-old apartment building, right? It's weird. Nobody's coming there on accident. Okay. Everybody's coming because they're coming to Slab. Yeah. But because it's that, what we didn't calculate was that coming to Slab and finding it felt like a discovery, right? It felt like you were finding something special that nobody else knew about because it's not obvious. And so the other thing that happened was that, Eric and I were like, this is what we were doing, right? So we were there. I mean, we were there every day, right? And this was how we were supporting our families. Like, this is the only thing that we did. And we had I don't know if we had patience because we were patient or because we had to be, but we, like, this is what we did. And this is, like, we were there every day. And, we didn't have a fancy ordering system. So we had a piece of paper and we wrote people's names down, and we didn't have numbers. Like, I mean, for a couple of years, we didn't have numbers. So we just write somebody's name down. Yeah. And so nobody was number 2 or number 7. They were, they were Mark, or they were David, or they were whoever. Right. And so we got to know people, and people liked, we didn't spend money on being fancy. Right. We just wanted to be clean and simple and have great pizza, and have pizza as good as we could make it. And so as people kept coming back, and we started playing with different flavors, and we started people would come in with special orders. There's names on our menu of people back in 2010 or 2011 that would just come in and order, you know, there's a Carlin. It's just extra pepperoni and extra cheese, but Carlin came in 2 or 3 times a week, and he would call ahead and he said, I want extra pepperoni and extra cheese. And it's just easier to write down Carlin on our piece of paper and make that. So that's just what got put on the menu. Right. And so like all of these things just happened like that. And so when names started going up on the menu, then people start getting excited about trying to come up with like the next thing that is going to make the menu. Right. And not a lot of them did, but some of the ones that were worthy made it. Right.
Yeah. No, I absolutely love that. And you were engaging that audience in a unique way where, hey, you're coming, you're making these requests. Guess what? I put Carlin on the menu, and other people catch on to that as time goes on. Like Carlin, I'm sure Carlin went and told his friends, like, hey, Slab named a pizza after me. Check this out.
Right.
And they all go and they all get the Carlin, and that starts that word of mouth buzz that is so crucial to brand building. And I look at your menu and I can probably pick out a few. Like there's I don't remember, like the C. Jane pear or something like that, where you're like, oh, that's somebody's name. That's somebody's name. And eventually you just want to try it. Especially if you've tried multiple and you're like, oh, these are really unique, or really good. Like I can't get this at a Domino's. I can't get this at a classic pizzeria. This is something special and unique for an experience. And it's a massive pizza with really good ingredients served on parchment paper. And it's awesome.
Right. So, and that's the thing is like the other lucky thing was we realized over the first couple of years that the fact that we were selling quarters, and the fact that we started to have more and more flavors was that we were turning into a very customizable pizza shop. So it was a different experience. I mean, this was before, this is right. I think the super customizable pizzas, like, Pizzeria Limone was started, I think, right after Slab. And none of these were copying Slab by any means. Like we weren't that influential at all, but the chains that would pop up like Blaze and Mod and, all these places where, you basically go down the line and you choose all your toppings and they throw it in the oven for you. And like, that's like personalized, customized pizza. And we discovered that we were turning into that, right? Like that if you were a mom and you were sick of eating cheese pizza because your kids don't know how to eat, you could come in and you could get salad on top of your pizza and your kids could get cheese and everyone's happy. And 4 friends can come in and you don't all have to agree. Like everybody just gets what they want. And if you want to share, you can share. But so C. Jane was like the first big push of our business was C. Jane was an influencer before they were called influencers, and she was a neighbor and a good friend, and she posted about us, and like she had a huge following of people, and we just exploded, or we just like jumped overnight. And I wanted to tell one story about naming. So in the early days, we had a whiteboard where we would put new pizzas that we were experimenting with, or things that were going to go on the menu when we printed a menu the next time. And I was by myself. It was one afternoon, and this kid named Austin Baird came in, and he was a BYU student. I think he later went to law school at BYU, but he was a really cool kid, but he wasn't obviously cool, right? Like he was super cool when you got to know him, and he wasn't like, I use this is my number one training story for all of my employees. So Austin came in, and he opened up the door. He was like super excited. He's like, I got it. And he like just started naming off ingredients. Like, here's the sauce, barbecue sauce, chicken, bacon, green chilies, egg, Parmesan. I'm all right, I'll go make it for you. And so normally when people would come in and they'd be all excited about a flavor and they'd throw something out, and we'd write it down and we'd test it out a few times and like see if we liked it. And then you usually we just call it after them if they came in, but we wouldn't put it up on the board. But Austin came in all excited. My mind works in flavors, and I knew that was awesome, right? So I went and made it. I put it in the oven, and then I went over to the whiteboard, and while it was cooking, I wrote the Austin and what was on it. So it was on the board even before it came out of the oven.
Oh,
And
fascinating.
yeah, Austin's Instagram profile still says, I have a pizza named after me. And the influence that just his influence of the number of people that he told about Slab that became our customers and that have been customers for a decade plus. Like, I mean, I've sold at least like $750,000 of pizza just because of Austin. Like at least it's probably over $1 million that I could tie just to that one person. And the fact that the first time he came in, he had good pizza. And the second and third times he came in, he had good pizza as well. So we've been like, our training story is that every single slab we make matters. And it doesn't matter who walks in, like that piece of pizza matters a lot, because that's, this is our brand, right? Like we are trying to have the best pizza we can make every single time, whether you're there for the first time or whether you're there for the 1,000th time. Right. So.
Yeah, it's fascinating because there was a moment where this really clicked for me about how precious Slab's brand was, because you were using our text marketing system, and you aren't the classic pizzeria. You don't discount your product. You don't you focus on the quality and the brand. And I remember we ran this text marketing campaign together where it was like, hey, join to get on the list to hear about the secret flavors.
Right.
And people were signing up for this text club in the droves because they wanted to be on the list to hear about the new flavor that Andy and the team was going to come up with. And every time a text went out, you're like, I don't know if I have enough ingredients because people are coming in, and it was that branding of the flavor. And it's the stories of the Austins. It's the story of the CJanes. It's the story of the people who have, helped you to create these really fabulous flavors and experiences, and then tell the world. That word of mouth is really hard to replicate, but you've done that at scale and taken it from even a single unit to 4 units. And every slab mattering really matters, because if you don't have a good business under the hood, no amount of marketing will save you. If you don't care about your customers, if you don't build a relationship, if you don't have high quality product, marketing doesn't help. It just amplifies.
Yeah, and it's just so and that's been one of the hardest things about growing is maintaining that care, right? And it's really difficult. Obviously our goal, our belief is that every single slab matters, and our goal is that every single slab is as great as we can make it. But, reality is that every single slab isn't awesome, right? Sometimes they aren't, and sometimes somebody burns a pizza and they don't notice, or they're too busy to quality control themselves, mistakes happen. We read the screen wrong and we put stuff on it that it's not supposed to be. And so, I mean, it's a restaurant. So lots of, things aren't always as great as we want them to be, but we have that goal, and we have that aim to be consistent. And so we're trying to be. I taught this word in an English class lesson. We're striving to be as good as we can be, right? But um, but it's really difficult, especially as as you grow um, and as you grow and get spread thinner, like you just can't, like, you can't. I don't have the time to be there for every single pizza anymore. Right? So that's the challenges of getting of getting bigger is maintaining the feel of a tiny little 4-table shop in the basement of an apartment building is really tough
Yeah.
to replicate. So that's a struggle, but we have we have some good employees that have been with us for a long time. So hopefully we're doing well.
That's fabulous. And so you've talked today about a few different principles. The principle of having really high quality product and focusing on that being the core, so that as people come in over and over again, they tell people about how great it is. You even touched on, there was that moment where, you know, C. Jane was posting, and that helped you to blow up and kind of leverage that influencer audience. You named pizzas after people, and they started telling their friends. That led to, Austin himself helped to produce more than $1 million worth of pizza from that experience and beyond. Are there any other like core moments or pieces of advice that helped you to expand that word of mouth as you built and scaled Slab Pizza?
So this is a tricky subject for me, if I'm being honest, because one, I really do believe in this strategy, but I also know that I'm not good at traditional marketing. So we have tried lots of things where we've sporadically been on Instagram and social media. We're trying to be more consistent and better at that. Like, we've actually have employees that are responsible for that now. And so, but that's only been, a month or two. So we're trying to do more things to build, but I mean, it's difficult for me because I'm not great at
Yeah.
marketing. And so, it's hard for me to find things that I can track, right? That I have data. So, like, you know, I I've we've donated to schools. We donate to the football team, and they put our banner up at the field, and like, I can't tell you whether that works or not. My gut feeling is that it probably doesn't. Okay, it's a nice thing to do,
Yeah.
but like, I don't know I don't know that those kinds of things actually drive sales. And maybe I was listening to the first episode of your podcast, and he was talking about, what was the method where you're hitting somebody like a few times. And we would always talk about touches, right? So like, you just need to be like, maybe a banner at the football field isn't going to bring someone straight from the game to your shop, but maybe that's one of the 10 touches that they needed to bring them
Sure.
when they say, let's go get some food, right? So it is, that's something that, as I got stretched thin and things got operationally more difficult, and like, COVID, and just like all the mess and just operational messes that we're dealing with, like, we didn't focus at all about having those touches out. And so, it's something that we're actively working on now. And so we're trying to be, we have a loyalty program that you helped us start, right? We can, we have a big email list. We have a decent-ish following on Instagram that we're trying to build, and Facebook. And so we're trying to be consistent, and so that we're at least on people's minds more
Yeah.
than like, you know, than we are than we have been.
Yeah, and what I can say is, I've been a customer for, well more than a decade now, and one of the most consistent things I've experienced from Slab is high quality product. It's always a good experience in the store, even when there's a long line. Like there's quality. We know you care about us as customers, and it's such a novel pizza experience that it's kept me and my family coming back year after year after year after year, and I've loved watching your brand grow, and it's just been awesome. Thank you for sharing your story with
You're welcome.
everyone today, and I'm excited to keep being a customer for decades to come.
Yeah, no, it's great. We've made, just in the last year, we have, like, operationally, we've done a lot of things that have really helped position us to be able to do really cool things. So we've switched our POS system, and we're on a platform that really allows us that has a lot of tools that we're going to employ. And, and I still get to invent new flavors. So we're going to try to scale our menu down just a little bit, because I, I, I don't know how many flavors we have. It's an embarrassingly big number of flavors, and it's really intimidating to people that come in and have to make a decision. Um, so we're gonna try scaling our menu down a little bit, but having seasonal things and monthly specials. And I have, like, the best pizza I've made in a long time was um, is going to be a flavor of the month soon. So it's
Awesome.
it's a supplier brought me burnt ends. And so I made a Thai chicken pizza and took off the chicken and put on burnt ends, and it's a Thai burnt end pizza. It's it's amazing. It's the best thing I've made in a long time.
I'm
So
excited to try it.
yeah, there's still like so many things that we're working on, and that's the great thing about going into the shop, is like, we're you know it's a place where you're never satisfied with where you're at, and there's always things to work on, and things to improve, and things to make better, and it's always a challenge. So it's fun.
Awesome. Well, Andy, thanks for coming on the podcast today and
You're
sharing
welcome.
the story. This has been awesome. Have some golden nuggets that a lot of people are going to pull out of this. So thank you.
Great. You're welcome. Thank you.